Hello, you're welcome to another wonderful session of our program. And today we're talking about acousmatic and visualized sound. My name is Andrew Obeng, and you are once again welcome. When we talk about acousmatic and visualized sound, what are we talking about? Basically, this has to do with our impression of sound that comes along with the images on screen and how we categorize them. But before we go on, let's look at some of our learning objectives for the course today. So by the end of the session, we expect to have the deep understanding of what the concept of acousmatic and visualized sounds are, and then the classifications of sound elements and the acousmatic and visualized sound. And we should be able to develop our own understanding of how these classifications can be used dramatically in films and television programs or other audiovisual programs, be it documentaries we're doing or animation productions or other audiovisual productions, including video games. So it is important for us to understand that sound present themselves in relation to what we see in the frame or on screen. Whilst some present themselves as synchronous to the action on screen, others also present themselves as just lying on the surface, whilst still some specifically register themselves as off-screen, and one side that you cannot, place them anywhere within the digesters. It is important that we understand these groupings, and because of these discussions, we realize that over time, sound elements have been classified into certain groupings. Okay, but that does not mean that that's the end, because research keeps on, and there are many developments or discoveries. And as you realize, we will even come to a certain portion within the course that you realize that is debatable. The classifications here are debatable, and you will have to prove your own point. When you choose a stand or a stance, you should be able to prove what you mean, whether you agree with your colleague or not, or you agree with your lecturer or you don't agree with your lecturer, and prove why you do or you don't. It's important. Now, to move on, it's important to understand that the first one we want to look at is diegetic sound, and this refers to sound which is visible within the image or frame on screen, and it could also be off screen, but with a confirmed source present within the story world. And this is evidenced by the reactions of the actor or actors on screen. What this means is that diegetic sound is any sound that you can confirm that it has a source on screen or within the film world that is presented to you. Okay, and then the second thing to look out for to confirm whether a sound is diegetic is that the actors have access to that sound, and therefore they are reacting to that sound. For instance, if you see a dancer on screen and just dancing, you are not seeing the source of the music player, but yet the character is dancing, perhaps singing along, and then you can conclude that yes, though I am not seeing the CD player or Blockbuster or whatever machine that is playing the music, the character on screen has access to that music, and therefore you confirm that the music or the source of the music is within the film world on screen. So you have established that yes, the source is there, and two, the characters have access to the sound source. when these two conditions are met, then you can confidently say that that is a diegetic sound. All right, so let's go on. So this, excuse me, brings us to what acousmatic sound is, and the origin of the word is a Greek. It's from Greek, and it was discovered by John Pernot and theorized by Pierre Schaeffer, and it describes sounds that one hears without seeing their originating cause. Okay, examples are a phone ringing. For instance, if we hear right now a phone ringing and I turn around and then I pick my phone and I begin to receive, at the point where the particular moment, it doesn't matter how short it was, that the phone rang, that we didn't see on screen, all right? But later my reaction showed that it was ringing within this film world before you, proves that the sound was coming from my world where I am seated right now, because I reacted to it, but it was not on screen until I brought it into the screen or into the shot. So from the time that the source of the sound is not shown on screen, that sound is acousmatic. It is within the film world, okay, where I am, but just that it is not shown on screen. But the moment I pick it, where's my phone? Okay, the moment I pick the phone and then I bring it to the screen and I begin to talk, the source, okay, of that sound now becomes, or the sound that came from this phone now becomes a visualized sound. But if it rings and the phone is out of the frame, you define it as an acousmatic sound. I believe this is clear. Okay, now let's go on. I put my phone down and let's go on. So in other words, sounds that are whose sources are invisible, whether temporarily or not, and this is important, whether it happened over 1 second or not, it's still important to know that you can categorize it at that particular moment as acousmatic or visualized, or whichever categorization you want to categorize it as, or not, relative to what is shown in the shot of, that is off-screen sound, is categorized as acousmatic. Or the sources are external to the story world, that is non-diegetic. Yes, when we talk about acousmatic, there is a branch of acousmatic which is also non-diegetic, meaning there are times that the sound source is not shown on screen, but it is not within the film world. For instance, you could be hearing a background music as the character is moving or doing whatever, and throughout the movie you never get the chance to see the source of the music, and that is it. Now that music, since you didn't see the source of the music and the actors didn't react to it, is clearly a non-diegetic sound, because it is a background sound which was added during post-production. It doesn't occur, or it didn't occur within the film world, and it is clearly a non-diegetic sound, though it comes under the umbrella of acousmatic, because the source is not shown on the screen. It is off-screen sound. So basically what this means is that off-screen sound can be acousmatic, which is diegetic, just that the source is not seen on screen, or non-diegetic, that is, it is off-screen and it's also outside the diegesis of the film story. All right, I hope this is clear. Okay, it will become more and more clear as we go on. Okay, let's go on. So yeah, as the film goes on, the acousmatic can develop into visualized sound, like I demonstrated to you. The phone rings, it is not on screen. I bring it within the frame, and now you can see the source of the phone and then define it as visualized sound. The vice versa is also true. A sound can start as visualized. For instance, you are seeing me speaking, so you see my lips as producing the sound, but when I go off screen like that, yes, you're still hearing my voice, but you're not seeing me. So it began from on screen like this, that you're hearing my voice, and then it went on to acousmatic sound. You're hearing my voice right now, but you're not seeing my voice. So at this time, my voice is acousmatic, and this time around, my voice is visualized. It's as simple as that. Okay, so this is what I just explained to you, and a typical example is what you experience when you watch the film Once Upon a Time in the West. And I'm going to upload to you at least the opening scene of the movie, and so please look out for it on your platform. And then there's a short assignment there that you can do for me. All right. So it is important that we understand these technologies, and it's going to be very interesting as we go on with this. And talking about the visualized sound, it is an embodiment. Okay, it's also defined as an embodiment or an embodied sound identified with an image and acts as a symbolic sound signifying the presence of an image whenever it occurs. There are times that like I demonstrated to you a few moments ago, you have established that this sound you are hearing, this voice you are hearing, belongs to me, Andy. So anytime you hear the sound, even without seeing Andy, and it could be a scene of people doing whatever, whether walking or eating or playing around, but you hear the voice of Andy amongst the lot, you identify that this character called Andy is within the film world, and you're just waiting to see him visualized. And it can be an interesting way to heighten tension and suspense in movies, and we'll be seeing that in a short while. Let's go on and see. Okay, so sometimes a sound or voice that remains acousmatic creates mystery of the kind of its source and its properties and powers. Yes, it is used a lot in horror movies, also in movies from the Bible. For instance, you talk about the movie Moses. When Moses encounters the burning bush, if you know the story, there's a loud voice, okay, that says that Moses, remove your sandals, for the ground you stand on is a holy ground. And that voice, according to the Bible story, is the voice of God. He is not seen, yet he is manifested in the bush that is burning, that is on fire and yet not burning. Okay, so though we don't see this voice, we see the manifestation of this character, this powerful character, at least in the manifestation of the bush with the green leaves on fire and yet not burning. Okay, so we have grounds to believe that there is a character, supposedly a powerful character, but not seen. Okay, so this technique is used many times in movies like that to show how powerful a character is who is not seen. Okay, sometimes too it is used in horror movies or in movies where a character has evil powers and causing so much evil, and it is only when the powers are taken off or from the character or by revealing the face of the character that we say the character has been de-acousmatized. Until then, the character maintains the acousmatic nature, that it is only the voice that makes us relate with the character, and it heightens the emotions, the intrigue, the suspense in the movie. All right. And as a soundman, you can also creatively use this by discussing and planning well with the director, and you can do a lot on this. Okay, so now there is this discussion, argument about on-screen, off-screen, and non-diegetic sound, and it's really dominated a lot of discussions in the field of sound design for so long. Sometimes it can be debating, it can be confusing. Like I told you, it can be tricky. Sometimes you can argue and get yourself confused. But it is advisable to take it one step at a time. Whatever you take to prove your point, discuss it, prove it well, and then you go on to the next point. It is possible that one category of sound can one element of sound can find itself in two different categories or under two different umbrellas. It's perfectly normal. It can happen. All right. So on-screen sound is that whose source appears in the image. We've spoken about this already and belongs to the reality represented therein. It's also known as visualized sound. On-screen is the same as visualized sound. In a narrow sense, off-screen sound is sound that is acousmatic relative to what is shown in the shot, whose source is invisible, whether temporarily or not. It could be temporarily or not. Once you don't see the source on screen, is off-screen sound. It is important that we understand this very well. Okay. So talking again about diegetic sound, we've spoken about it already. There is a sound whose source is visible in the image or in the frame on screen, and then it could also be off screen, but with a confirmed source present with the film world, and it is evident by the actions of the characters. In short, diegetic sound refers to sound that has a source within the film world and which is also accessible to the characters. Okay, it is very important that if there was someone with me, the character is hearing my voice, and therefore my voice is accessible. And then number two, you are seeing the source of the words that I'm speaking. Even if there was no one with me, you are seeing me, and I'm the source of my voice, and then my voice is also accessible to me anyway. All right, so on the other hand, the non-diegetic sound is the opposite. It is the sound whose source, cannot be confirmed on the screen or in the film world or in the frame. And secondly, it is not accessible to the characters on screen. And you can see by the reaction of characters whether a sound is accessible to them or not. Now let's see the diagram of the categorization of sound. Yes, you have it here. We have the acousmatic sound, off-screen sound, diegetic, and here we are with the diagram. I'm going to post this to you so you can take your time to look at it. All right. So we need to understand that with all these categorizations that we've spoken about, there are some exceptions. There are always exceptions. Particularly when we come into the realm of animation, where we say, in trying to rigidly define or restrict sound elements under the umbrellas of diegetic and non-diegetic sound, that it is only when we see the source of a sound on screen, and two, when it's accessible to the character, that we define a sound as diegetic. Arguments begin to rise when we enter into the realm of, for instance, animation, because in animation, you realize that there are characters, okay, that move and swing to music, dance to music, without us seeing the orchestra playing that music. Let's look at a few points here. There are times that it becomes difficult to define these categorizations. Before we get there, let's look at this point I want to make in a brief moment about the acousmeter. Okay, now the acousmeter is the acousmatic character whose relation to the screen involves a specific kind of ambiguity and oscillation. That's what Jean-Michel said in his book. It is neither inside nor outside the image. It is not inside because the image of the voice body the image of the voice, the body, the mouth is not included. Okay, and it's not outside because it is clearly positioned off screen in an imaginary space. So there are exceptions to this categorizations of diegetic, non-diegetic, on-screen and off-screen sound, and these arguments keep on going and going and going. So there comes a time that it becomes difficult for you to describe certain sound elements and position them rightly. In the film, I mean, the Ten Commandments, for instance, where Moses, I said earlier, goes to get the commandment from God, he is encountered by a situation where there's thunder, there's fire, the sound is so strong, the earth is shaking, earthquake, and yet we don't see anyone. And yet we see a mighty hand like fire writing on the tablets which are given to Moses as the Ten Commandments. Now, question: do we see the mouth of the voice, the character God? No. Yet, do we have evidence that the sound of that character is accessible to Moses? Yes. Because he's afraid, he's shaking, and we see like a hand, fire writing and scribbling on the tablets. Then we are torn between two, that you see the evidence of a character speaking and writing by fire, and yet you don't see the character. Throughout the movie, we never get to see the character, but the character Moses reacts to it. The same is with the burning bush experience, where God speaks and manifests himself by fire, burning the bush, but the bush is not burnt, and Moses has to remove his sandals because in the presence of God. That's one example. Another example is in the movie Psycho, where you don't see the character mother, and it's only revealed at the end. Okay, so fictional movies very often use these techniques to depict a powerful or an all-seeing figure, like God or some evil force. And or in horror movies, a bad character, killing people or causing havoc without that character ever being seen until that character is exposed. And when that character is exposed, we say the character has been de-acousmatized. And it is important that we understand this. And de-acousmatization basically has to do with the unveiling process or the revealing process, or exposing the hitherto hidden character who is so feared by all. And when that moment happens, we say that all-powerful character has been de-acousmatized or has been disposed, of his or her powers, and it can be used, these techniques can be used very interesting and beautifully in movies. I'm going to attach the movie to you, and do your best to watch the movie The Psycho and see how this is creatively used. So there are some references here that you can check and get more information on this, and I'm going to give you the links that you can do further research on this, and I have no doubt that it's going to be a wonderful trip by all of us on this trip. So soon our time is up, and I will expect you to get in touch with me. Please watch the movies and do the assignments, and please get back to me if you have any questions. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.